How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hopefully everybody's day's been going well. Your Reds off season's been going well, but this is a Cincinnati Reds team that just came off a historic season. 61% of their runs came off the long ball, aka the home run. A team that finished the season with the lowest ball in play batting average in all of baseball, and it was a clear problem, especially in playoffs, that this team struggled to get hits, specifically base hits, specifically to advance runners, and more specifically to drive them in when they got on the base pads. And it'd be nice to see the Reds opt to sign a free agent that could bring that skill set to the team. You know, you instantly think of somebody like DJ LeMahieu, but I do think he's a guy that's, probably north of 20 million a year, and or a guy that wants, 18, 20 million a year for a long period of time, with something the Reds might not really be completely into doing there. So I don't see that one happening. But here's, also my biggest concern, minus the fact that you're not getting DJ LeMahieu. You could like to hope it happens. But you just signed Moose. You just signed Castellanos. You just signed Shogo. You expect Winker. You expect Shogo. You expect Senzel. You expect Castellanos to play every day. And that being said, one of them is obviously going to occupy the DH, the other three in the outfield. And I say expect them to play every day because, it depends if Bell wants to just bat them 2 ABs or every other day, especially if they're getting hot, going into playoffs, but somebody like Shogo, hottest hitter on the team by a mile and a half. He's like, let's just bench him to start the series. Maybe we'll score runs without him. Which may beg the bigger question, do the Reds need to change something in that batting order or something in that managerial and or coaching staff there? Nonetheless, you look at this, you say Suarez at third, Moose, Votto, they're going to play their respective positions. Again, the outfield, the DH, it all feels like all these positions already filled out. And that's, that's the concern you look at and say, well, where are they going to go in free agency? There's a very limited spot or market spot, whatever you want to call it here, for this Cincinnati Reds team from an offensive perspective, and that's shortstop. And it almost feels like at shortstop, it's Andrelton Simmons or bust here. A guy who would fit the perfect role here that you're looking for, as a guy that he doesn't strike out a lot. He's a career 270 hitter, and he's one of the best in the game at his position from a fielding perspective, something the Reds would love to have here as, a cornerstone in that infield that's really good at that, or really good defensively. But the bigger question here that comes to mind is Simmons going to want a long-term deal? Probably. And do the Reds want to pay that much? And essentially put a blanket on the idea of Garcia potentially starting for this team in the next couple of years. Now, it is a guy who was clearly overwhelmed this season when he did get a play. He made that jump over a couple of leagues because of, everything going on with the shortened season, minor leagues not playing, everything. You expect him to go back down, want to play a couple more years in the minors, continue to develop. I get that. And I think you can look and say, you know what, maybe 2-3 years down the road, 24, 25 years old, there's a clear window that starts to open at some position on this Reds infield for Garcia, maybe even in the outfield. And for that reason, you don't concern yourself, or you don't worry too much about that. But I do question how much the Reds are, desiring going after another mid-sized to upper, big bat here as far as a contract's concerned, because they just spent record amounts of money last season, and those bats were supposed to help this team. And they should still be able to do that this next season. You should expect that of this team. I feel like if you're upper management or you're a Reds fan, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to pick up another solid bat this free agency, but you should be able to get away with what you have. It's one position. I get it. You shouldn't say just one position, but it's clear that you can do that on a team where you have your other guys that you expect to bat over 250, the Moustakas, the Castellanos, the Shogos, all these guys should be batting over 250, and then you throw a guy in that bats 220, 215, 225, whatever. It's like, okay, it's one guy. Yeah, it's a hole, but it's something that shouldn't drag your team down as much offensively as we've seen this season, because all those guys that should have been batting plus 250 were not. That's a big problem there. Those guys have to turn it around. It doesn't matter what hitter you bring in at shortstop. If he bats 300 and these guys are still home run or bust, what's he going to do getting on base? Votto still gets on in an extraordinary clip. Shogo was getting on at a great clip until Bell's like, let's bench him first game of the series here. They still had to drive him in. That was the problem. They even had opportunities in the playoffs where they had, guys and runners in scoring position. They couldn't get the base hits. And I do think that's an area you just say, this is still a team that, despite the hitting struggles this season, it's still set up to be a good hitting team going forward. Keep in mind, these are guys on, the Moustakases, the Castellanos. They are on middle interim term deals here. They're not on some 10-year deal where I have no reason to have or no incentive to try to play baseball anymore here. They're going to want to another contract re-up at the end of this, wherever they do end up. And I think you say you count on these guys to turn it around, But again, I look at the manager, I look at the hitting coach who should be on the hot seat. No question about it. I mean, backseat manager here, that's what we do. But to me, it was clear. It was clear for a majority of the season. The problem is, Bell switches the lineup every day. You're giving guys 2 ABs and yanking them from the game constantly. Baseball is just, you've said this before, baseball is a very rhythmic, ritualistic type of, thing for guys. And sitting every other day or playing half a ball game makes it hard for them to get into that sort of role and continue to, cruise when they do get in that role, especially when you yank them and worry about the matchups when a guy's batting 450 on the month or getting on base at, 45% of the time. That's a problem, and I think you want to give them a chance. I mean, that's clear that it's happening, but these guys have to be on the absolute hottest of hot seats entering that month of April, because this is a Reds team 2 years in a row now. He was giving players that were supposed to help this team and make them a contender. And yes, there was a contender this season in a shortened season, but it didn't feel much like it because of the fact that they could not hit the baseball with a dominant pitching staff and a bullpen that did eventually start to turn things around there at the end of the season. But it does feel like something that it could be hard. I want to see the Reds, always want to see these guys improve, pick guys up in free agency if they can, but it makes you wonder if they go, below average to average type of shortstop instead of a bigger fish in the market if they do go that direction here. We'll see. That's our thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.